Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mansi, and I'm the Regional Community Director at SCA. I'm very happy to host and moderate this panel discussion. I've got Andrew, Serena, and Deb all waiting behind the scenes. Just letting you all know that we're going to have a few minutes where they're going to present first, and then we're going to get into questions and answers from all of you. So just so we can set the stage, we're talking about the external focus. And so coffee retail businesses, they've always been central to all of our community activities. Whether you're like celebrating something, you might go to a cafe, or maybe community organizers are utilizing this space because it's so central and focused to that community and to kick off their projects. The pandemic, unfortunately changed that. It limited the types of ways that we can gather at our cafes. But we're going to hear from our three speakers, and we're going to discuss how, even though that happened, it didn't, remove or crush coffee's participation in community-led efforts. That actually has morphed and changed and shaped into different ways. And we're going to discuss how these businesses, who are all very different, prioritize the community just like they did before, and what has changed with the pandemic and how they are going to adapt some of these things even into the future. So our first speaker is actually Andrew. Andrew co-founded Reverie Coffee Roasters in 2013. He's since grown this business into just award-winning coffee wholesaler, 2 cafes, a bakery, a full-on caterer. He had over 30 coffee professionals, which changed a bit, because of the pandemic, but still definitely 16 coffee professionals still working under him. He's got a massive team. He's got a big business. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is, wow, Andrew must be so busy. And he probably is, but he's prioritizing community work and doing things that are involvement with the local governments, the local organizations. And, one of the things that I kind of hear about is that coffee business owners are always so busy in the business. And Andrew's really promoting how he's working on the business by working in the community. So I'd like to invite Andrew to turn on his camera and join us here. We're just looking forward to getting your advice and, for business owners to really learn about how to do this working on the business versus just in it, So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera here and let you present first, and I'll turn back on in a few minutes after you're done.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who's here. And for me, I'm super excited to hear my own voice on the internet. So that's always a good day for me. In all seriousness, though, I've been really impressed with the content of these meetings. In 2016, I first entered RECO and the World Coffee Expo in Atlanta and realized how much effort goes into producing content for the value chain of coffee, but how little was actually being directed towards business literacy and running businesses. So I attend events to find answers to questions as an operator, but yet, and like everybody there has some sort of responsibility to make that work. And make businesses work. So I'm really happy to be here as an attendee and participate. Thanks to Mansi and to Heather Ward for your continued interest in these subjects. And please do not stop this kind of content. We appreciate it. From this first slide, you can tell I have taken a concept of just a small roaster retailer and tried to expand it into many different businesses over the last 8 years. In a retail location, we've improved our food programs. We've expanded, to multiple locations. We created a service company to help service our own company needs, and as well as our customers in the wholesale roasting business. Most recently, we added an incubator-style shared use kitchen to help make good use of unused kitchen space that lay dormant during the last year. We now have 6 food startups inside of our business that work on a calendar to produce all kinds of different food items, and they're all licensed businesses contributing to our community. So that's pretty exciting. I came into the coffee industry as an education coordinator for a retirement planning business, and I guess you could characterize my role as being an advocate for those employees of those businesses that I served. And my goal was to empathize with them on their struggles financially, and then work with them to make really big life choices to help impact their financial futures for the rest of their lives and into retirement. And as a coffee business owner, I've taken a similar approach to my role. But in this case, I'm an advocate for the coffee business owners. Because I was an employee in my past role, I'm an owner in my current role. I feel it's my duty to work with customers in the industry to create stronger, more sustainable businesses. So at Reverie, our stated purpose is to precipitate positive changes within our communities. And our niche is a little bit abstract, and I'll let you think about it, but it has been for a number of years, to better coffee. That's that. In everything we do, our purpose is to leave things better than when we started. And most of us know this through service that we provide face-to-face with our customers. Most of us do this in solidarity with the communities we serve, but we primarily focus on supporting ideas that improve the quality of life for the people in our community. But like many owners I interact with, we'd struggle to find out where our contributions actually made meaningful impact. And what I mean by this is if we donated product or raised money and gave to a cause, or the time that we actually that we gave, do we actually make measurable changes in our space? So could our team feel like we did anything tangible to improve the communities that we serve? So keeping that in mind, we made the conscious decision to choose to narrow our giving focus to one major idea. And we landed on this idea that we wanted to make Wichita, Kansas, the literacy capital of the United States. Childhood literacy has a direct correlation to the size of how we design prisons in the future. Third grade reading aptitude is the key right there. And so we wanted to narrow our focus to one area so that we're able to help improve opportunities for future generations and their families. So there's so much to share on this topic, and that's really for another day. But the point of this is to narrow our giving focus to fewer challenges and doubling down on them. We're able to make an impact and really see that impact that we're doing good, or at least we're able to look and know how we can make the difference or how to measure the difference. This goes back to an idea that I fell onto a while back about reciprocating value and finding reciprocating value in everything we do. So if we could do good for our community, the community will likely support us and allow us to continue to do our work through coffee. So I help business owners because I know that this may help me meet my bottom line. They have to buy coffee, they have to buy equipment. And this is a major sticking point for me to determine where we can offer our time and our experience. I also spend time teaching our version of an intro to specialty coffee class for the local university through their continuing education department. I get big value out of that personally because I love to share my love for coffee with people who love to learn. And it's also nice to get paid to do something. They actually pay you for this. It's such an easy way to test my knowledge on our subject and to promote our industry and our business within our own space. So I encourage anybody listening today, if you can, please become your local expert in your business. And this is going to pay you dividends like you'll never imagine. Another idea that we've instituted in our physical and virtual space is the idea that you can kind of connect visually with the people around you, with your neighborhood or your community. There's a photo up on the screen with the words that are in the windows of our cafe. It says, "We run for Thomas." And it was a simple statement that over 4,000 runners in our annual marathon read as they ran by our business. It gained national attention in the spotlight through all sports media outlets because it was a reflection of a friend and fan of ours, an insanely talented endurance runner who was killed by lightning during an ultra marathon. That little gesture was just an idea that we threw up in the windows, created a huge amount of buzz, and led me to personally connecting with hundreds of people who remembered our friend for the kind and compassionate person that he was. that's just a thing that we can do, real simply, and just in the windows of our businesses. So because of my background in business, though, I'm a natural connector, and I chose to be involved in a few organizations that I felt were connected to our industry somehow, and as well as really the greater community here in our community in Wichita, Kansas. I'm a member of the Kansas Restaurant and Hospitality Association, and I was invited to sit on a board of advisors for a 3-year term that just ended a month ago. I was able to connect with other restaurant operators to get to know, not only how to run a business better, lots of tenure in the room. It was really interesting to learn, but also how to learn about politics in the business community. We lobbied for laws that affected our businesses in the state, and I was given really close access to learn about the process of governance on a statewide level. It was not really a visible position I took, but one that allowed me to make personal connections with people and politicians that took time to hear our concerns. And I know I advocated for things that affected businesses in our state, some of which will never be known by the non-members. For example, the Blueprint for Restaurant Safety was created by our organization and was adopted by our state as the best practices for how to operate safely during the pandemic. And we also advocated for liquor laws to allow liquor to go, which a lot of businesses took advantage of, helped keep them alive. And that's just a couple of examples. I served on an advisory council to one of the existing culinary arts program, and also one that was being developed at the same time, a new program. And being in a unique part of the food industry, the coffee business, gained us some attention from their leaders of both those organizations. And so I was able to serve for several terms to be able to help shape the future of our culinary education in our community. And, being at that table has absolutely been able to help me achieve additional customer relationships. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity. So in 2020, we welcomed a new mayor in our community, which probably was the worst time to become a mayor. Although he's done a really wonderful job, his intention was to create advisory groups to all different types of industries for him to learn about our community. And a few months into managing this epidemic, he started seeking interest from business owners to be a part of these biweekly Zoom meetings and to discuss issues that are related to small business. Clearly, the first topic we talked about was how to survive COVID. I tossed my name into the ring via email, stated why I might be a good fit, and a few months later, I was nominated to join, and have been so now for over 5 months. We're being part of the solution, and it's really gratifying. I get to seek insights from other people that are in the same position I am, and I also feel like I get to play a small role in some of the future plans that our city is putting together right now to grow. We've discussed everything from promotional events and activities to help rebound our economy and get the vibe going again after COVID, to creating better policy and procedures for the city and the business operators to use to help create a better way of starting and operating businesses. They just rolled out a new tool, announced it yesterday, for licensing procedures and how simple it's going to be for us going forward, which is great. So these various forms of community engagement that I've taken time to be a part of has proven to really raise our business profile in our community, to the point where we often get called upon by the media to share our points of view on things, not just coffee related, but things surrounding various forms of financial support to how we view rules and regulations that affect our industry. We are really deeply connected, and we're able to react fast because we understand how these groups work. And I highly encourage anybody in their community in their business to do everything they can to get involved in these organizations. It's actually a lot simpler probably than you would imagine. And these have all been ways of raising our profile and have absolutely translated opportunities to grow our business. And so I'm really excited for new connections that keep coming every day. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'll turn it back over to Monsi.
Thank you, Andrew. And I hope everyone caught some of the key nuggets that you mentioned right there, that, if people are looking for the reason to why, your examples all kind of show, look at all this involvement that you're doing. But if someone's out there in a kind of a similar position as a retail owner operator, you mentioned something that I want to highlight. it pays off. And we'll kind of go into some Q&A on that, but I hope that people heard that from you, because you definitely mentioned it once or twice there. And I want to highlight that. And I'm going to invite our next speaker, but keep those questions ready, or you can put them in the chat and we will come back and Andrew will be back here to answer those. Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm going to go to Serena next. Serena is the founder of Booney Coffee out of New York, a company focused on Ethiopian coffee. She's she kind of owns the company with her husband, and they founded under the banner of coffee and community, which you might see that theme throughout the different speakers here, and it's remained true to their business, even through the pandemic. And so we're going to hear from Serena now on how, the business, what they did before the pandemic, especially being the central hub for a lot of the community activities, but then how that shaped after the pandemic. I think many coffee businesses will be able to relate to Serena's story on, really wanting to be there for the community because you were this major meeting spot, and then that being completely, flipped over, and having to come up with something different. So I think this is going to be a great story for you all to hear, and we're excited to have you, Serena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi, and thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone that we can't see. I wish we could all see each other. So I'll start with when my husband and I moved from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia to New York City. We brought the ethos of Ethiopian coffee culture with us. And what does that really mean? Like, what did that mean to us? It means that we thought about coffee in relation to each other, to nature, to climate, to the harvest, to rain, but most visibly and upfront in relation to people. So our extended family, neighbors, coworkers. And we knew that we couldn't just cut and paste that ethos into a New York City cafe. But it was with us, and it was within us as we started Booney, as we started going through the process. That was sort of kind of what we knew. And I was thinking about our topic today, and I think, very much in alignment with Andrew, who spoke before, it's really clear to me that we don't do any of the work that I'm going to talk about as community service necessarily, or any sort of charitable sense of that, but really, of course, we want to be in service to our community, and because that's our purpose. And we want to be relevant. But this is really a relationship, and it's being in community and in solidarity with our neighbors and building community together. And it's been really beneficial to us because as newcomers and new Americans, it gave us a way to create a sense of home for ourselves by getting to know our neighbors and building community with them together. And sometimes the tables have turned in unexpected ways. So here's an example. In 2017, I was ready to close our cafe for a day. We wanted the full team to go to the beach. Most of you in retail will know it's very hard for everybody to take off at the same time. So we hardly ever get the full team together. So we wanted the full team together. And I was saying this, probably one day we're going to close the shop and we're all going to take off. And one of my regular customers said, well, wait a minute. Maybe we could watch the shop for you, our group, which is like the regular ones. And that little seed of an idea, it really sparked, and it happened. We went to the beach and our customers ran our coffee shop for a day, and they did a great job. And we gained quite a bit of notoriety for this, even though that wasn't really the purpose, but we did get quite a lot of media attention about that. And it actually even was in Reasons to Love New York in New York Magazine, because customers gave our employees and ourselves a beach day. But so much more, right? Like the art, we really embraced the arts, and not just us, but local organizations, community organizations, arts organizations. And in some ways we went sort of full old school coffee house. We had, performers and panel discussions and spoken word. And we were also really supported by our community in that there was a Kickstarter campaign that was successfully, where our community raised money for us to change one of our cafes into a performance space so that it could be also accommodate performances in the evenings after hours as well. And there's just like some nice visuals here I'll share with you of just some of what it looked like. And of course, all of these are pre-COVID, so you can see that. Look at how we used to be, this crowded room, how close we used to stand to each other. But it was all of this was happening. And we also had some decisions to make. Like, I remember really clearly thinking, okay, there's a decision here to make about how far are we going to go in the stances that we take? How political are we going to get? What's the role of a business versus what's the role of activism? And being a little bit worried about that, like, where are the lines here? And, this is clearly still a very live discussion today, including with our big companies and corporations, but it's equally a live issue for small businesses like us. We took the leap, and there was no looking back, really. We got involved in sort of the issues that were important to us. Healthcare was a big one. And here we are advocating at our state capitol that's about small businesses and, all kinds of events and topics, and a really full agenda, full calendar. And then, within a matter of days, we were closed. And we were at the epicenter of the first wave of COVID in the US. And I know a lot of you will remember those days where we were scrambling to take care of our staff, scrambling to figure out how we were going to stay safe. And for Bunni, it felt like our whole identity was about being a community space, a gathering place. So, to be honest, we really felt a little lost at that time. Like, if we couldn't be that, then what were we? Like, what was our purpose? So at the height of the crisis in New York City, exactly a year ago, the spring and summer of 2020, while our shops were closed, we launched a Pay It Forward campaign, where our customers bought carafes of coffee and we delivered it to frontline workers. And so that was, in the larger scheme of what was happening in New York at the time, this is like a tiny, tiny act. But it really kept us going. It gave us a sense of purpose, and it kept us afloat. It also gave our community a sense of like doing something when we were all feeling quite helpless. And it did keep us afloat. Then we started cooking, quite literally started cooking food. We started making home-style Ethiopian meals made from scratch, that our customers could eat at home. And we delivered the meals, we delivered retail bags of coffee while most people were quarantining at home. And that's actually continued. We've continued this even now. A bit later, we started the virtual coffee tastings. Everybody, misses hanging out in the coffee shop, but also there are a lot of people who are making coffee at home now that weren't making coffee at home before, that were getting coffee at Bunni. And so now they were making coffee at home. And this was a way to connect with them and sort of keep that sense of being in touch with each other and some sense of connection. We do the guided tastings, but we also talk a lot about sort of the coffee culture and that ethos that I was talking about earlier. And it was another way to keep in touch. And we continue to look for ways to pay it forward, to stay relevant. who knows what the next year will bring. But for me, the main thing is to be responsive and to be relevant and to meet the moment. And I think I'm going to stop here for now. I know we'll have time for questions later, but thank you.
Thank you, Serena. That was awesome. Yes, we are going to have time for questions, and I want people to, kind of think about some of the gems of how you have essentially pivoted. I know that's a big buzzword, and I don't mean to use it in the wrong way, but you had to, you had to do some things to change it up. And I'm just, this is great. I'm so glad that you're sharing this with us. And yes, there are going to be some questions. I have some as well for you. So we'll kind of meet you back here in just a few minutes. I'm going to invite Deb to join us next. Honestly, I feel like if you've been to a coffee competition in the United States, Deb needs no introduction. She's the director of food service marketing at Pacific Foods, well known in our U.S. coffee community. She's the actual director that, sits in a high position at the company, but also is there meeting us at the coffee competitions. She is, I can't remember a competition where she's not always present and supporting. And, back when, before COVID, she's been, I always have a visual of Deb just hugging everybody, and she's just overall just very dedicated to barista professionals. And, I look up to Deb because of just all the different ways that she's grown in our community, but also just her career path, as a person that also aspires to have a big career and do big things. I think it's really remarkable that we have Deb, supporting all of us and through just conversations. Every conversation feels like a mentorship. So Deb's going to discuss specifically how programs at Pacific, impact community. I bet you're going to be inspired by just her passions and how they come through in her work. But, Deb, I hope you're going to give us some pointers also on how to, first of all, cultivate your passion and not just do that, but then also apply that to work and how you're able to kind of show that in your workplace. So I'm looking forward to your presentation. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Monsi. And hello, everyone. I'm so humbled, actually, by the opportunity to be here with everyone. And gosh, Andrew and Serena, I'm just so blown away by what you're doing. I would love to be able to spend more time with you to talk about it. Monsi, this isn't actually my first slide. I don't know if there is an earlier slide. There we go. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. And again, I'm so honored to be here with all of you. And I don't feel like, Monsi, I deserved your introduction because this community has given so much to me. And what a perfect opportunity for me to be able to talk about community. But I want to share with you a little bit about Pacific and where we're coming from and why I've enjoyed being part of Pacific for 10 years. I've worked for Pacific for 10 years, and it's where we start, and it's with our nourishment ideals. We're a food company, and so it is all about nourishment. And when we look at our list of ideals, we start, of course, with food, the food we make and put in the community, and about our employees. We care, but right there in our list of key objectives is being all about community. And so honored to be here to talk about that. And when we talk about community, I do want to mention the things that we've done in the community. When we talk about coffee community, yeah, we've done sponsorships, and that has been key to us, and our opportunity to be able to lift people up has been so exciting for us to watch. We started at Pacific in a very small space when our business was very small. And the first things that we did were baristas came up to me who were working and evaluating products we were developing and said, can you sponsor me? I want to compete. And that's where it started. It was sponsoring individuals, and that has grown to a bigger presence in the coffee community because it has been so inspirational to watch all of you grow, and you inspire us so much, and we're going to stay committed to you. But I want you to get a sense of what is right in the mission and the vision for Pacific, and it is our nourishment ideals. And then, Monsi, when we look at the next slide, and we really consider what the definition is of community, I'm going to touch on both community defined as a place, but also the definition of characteristics of people in common and brought together that way. So, and we're going to start with the local definition in the next slide. It is all about the Oregon Food Bank for us, and we've had a theme around that of nourishing everybody. And we have been committed to the Oregon Food Bank from the very start of Pacific 30 years ago. And our founder and his family personally delivered products to those in need in our local Oregon community. And it's been a passion of ours to pack product specifically for donation to the Oregon Food Bank, as well as to donate our regular products. It's just something we're so proud of, and it's something that we have always done. And then we started to learn in the next program, in the next slide, we started to learn more about the need of kids in our community. Kids, I don't know how many of you are aware, who are in need. They love being in school because there's food made available to them. Then on weekends, they, unlike many children, are sad to have weekend come because that means no food on the weekend. And then even accelerating it even beyond that, when you consider holidays, kids go hungry on holidays. That just seems just so wrong, and had bothered all of us so much that we as employees started to pack boxes of food for donation to kids to be able to have food on weekends, and we would deliver it to their schools, and then they would take it home on the weekend. So that started with one school, and that expanded, and that continued to expand. And we were so proud in our Oregon community to be able to do that we looked for an opportunity to partner with coffee people who have such great hearts. And that's in the next slide. We developed a Nourish Every Kid program on the road. And what we did is we were already attending coffee events. So we asked coffee people in local communities if they wanted to partner with us. We brought food, and the coffee people who attended these events participated with us to build boxes to be donated to children and others in need in their communities. And it was a way then to take our Oregon community and combine it with our coffee community in the best of all possible ways. So we're so proud of this program, and we had planned prior to COVID to do a lot more of this year. So please, if you're hearing me now about this, when we're out of COVID, let's talk about partnerships in your community and what we can do together to feed those in need in your community. And then when we then start talking about COVID and what we could do during COVID, it was devastating to us. Again, we're people who love to feed people, and we started hearing about our family, our coffee family, being in need during the time period, and shops, especially in the initial phases, not being open, with employees being out of work, and the people we love being so significantly impacted. So we started to work within our company to find ways that we could help feed people. And we called it Project Nourishment. And I will tell you, my team members, Nathaniel May and Mila Heller, were my inspiration to keep us going, to figure out ways we could make this happen. And we had 10 locations where we found coffee people in their communities who were willing to do the work to feed others in the community. We're so proud to have been part of this and to have been able to take care of some of the people who we love the most, we work most closely with, and to be able to help out in this way. So again, I'm so proud of our work and our working with all of you to be able to feed those in need during especially the first stressful months of COVID. And, we like to say hunger ends where community begins. It was everybody coming together. It was people raising their hand in their community saying, I will do the work to take care of others in our community. And I'm so proud of all the good work and so inspired by all of you who participated in this program with us. So then when you look at, okay, what did Pacific, we talked about all the Oregon Food Bank work, we talk about Nourish Every Kid, and you might be wondering, well, kids weren't in school. What were you doing to feed people during this time? Well, what Pacific did is we pivoted and we worked with some new programs. We worked with additional programs that were supportive of Oregon Food Bank. We participated in the local TV station, the NBC affiliate KGW, and we did a food drive for the past month, all about making more significant donations to the Oregon Food Bank. We've been so proud in our community to have been able to do that. And so taking care of our coffee community, taking care again of our local community is where our heart is, especially in this time of need. So again, so inspired by all of you. And then when we look, what our intent is that as Pacific and our coffee business grows, the more we intend to give, the more opportunities to give, the more opportunities to partner with all of you. So again, this is a starting point for all of us to collaborate. And again, I'm so honored, Mansi, Andrew, Serena, to be part of this panel with all of you.
Thank you, Deb. That was amazing. And it's so great. Like we have, you can keep your camera on, Deb, and I'm going to invite Andrew and I'm going to invite Andrew and Serena to kind of pop up again. There they are, coming in. And, we can, Deb, I just want to, while they're getting their cameras ready and things like that, it's great, right? We have these examples of how people can do things in their local community, but then the impact and the scale that a larger corporation and how that can work to benefit. And I think it's, we don't have to feel like we're so siloed into, we're going to just do our little thing. We're all working together on this. And, the themes of like literacy that Andrew brought up, your, companies like focus on like nourishing everybody and making sure that we're tackling this hunger problem with especially kids. Serena kind of looking at healthcare and prioritizing that. I just really feel like these are huge issues, right? Like bigger than small coffee shops and even bigger than companies like a Pacific. How do you encourage folks that are maybe watching this from, maybe they're an employee at a company, maybe they're other business owners, retail owner operators. How do you connect yourself to one of these types of huge missions, and how do you integrate that into your work? And this is for all of you, if you want to just speak a little bit, because this is just overall super inspiring. And I can understand maybe how it's also very overwhelming because they're very big topics that you all are engaged in.
The thing I would just say is don't wait for a pandemic to start the work. That's the thing. You have to be talking about mission when it's a good time so that you're ready and that the views are aligned. And I know with us, it was a matter of finding the right places to draw funding in to do these kinds of things. So I would just say start before a pandemic comes up or another emergency.
I was lucky in 2016 to be a part of what's called Leadership Wichita. Our Chamber of Commerce has an annual class. We go through about 13 weeks of sessions that range from all aspects of our community, from the nonprofit sector, schools, police, fire, government, and the list goes on. And my takeaway, one of my big takeaways from that was when we got to the school side of things, and it was that thing that they said, that I said earlier, which was the size of prison population, or this design of prisons is determined by third grade reading levels. And I had a first and second grader, or I had a preschooler and a kindergartner at the time. And it really hit hard to me that we need to teach our kids to read, because I don't want that to be an issue. So that's when we made the shift from everything, giving money to everybody, to figuring that out. So getting involved in that type of an event is huge opportunity. And those things happen all over cities for people to just got to let them know you want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I would add that, pick something that you're passionate about. Pick something that you and your team can really get behind, because as overwhelming as it can be, that if you pick the right thing for your company and for yourself, it can also be really energizing, and it can be very motivating and encouraging. And also the other thing, I would say, I used to be a nonprofit executive in a different career. So with my nonprofit hat on, I would say, there are plenty of people doing the work. So go and find them first. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
You had a great idea. You decided you wanted to work on this topic. Well, there have been people who have been doing the work for decades. Find them, listen to them, talk to them, and collaborate. And I think that also makes it less lonely. It makes it less overwhelming. It makes it more rewarding. And it just expands and amplifies the work, and you just keep building together.
Oh, that's great. I love that. All of you had such great takeaways right there. And I like repeating some of these, what you said, Serena, really speaks to some of the earlier conversations that we heard today on being authentic and just making it about yourself. And, and as somebody who also sits on a nonprofit board, I get that. There are other groups that are working on this. And I think that that's so important, that we need to understand that there's a lot more we can do with bringing people together and working on a problem together versus trying to do it alone. I really love that. And the continuing education and those leadership classes, Andrew. Yes, absolutely. Deb, I have a question specifically for you. I think of folks that might be at a company and, maybe their company is not focused on this, but they kind of see a connection to the company values. What would you, how would you give them advice on how to proceed with coming up with something that a company executive might, what would make a presentation to a company executive successful in this? I know connecting it to values is one thing that the company kind of seeks out for, but how do you make that happen? What has been your experience in that?
I've been so impressed by people who've come to us with proposals for things and how well thought out and how much of a business plan they brought to us. I think the preparation and having thought about this and understanding that companies want to do good things, and at least the majority of the places I've worked, people want to do good things. They don't want to be connected with those that don't. And it's just having the preparation, having a well thought out idea, and find a mentor within an organization. I would say if people want to get connected within coffee or wanted to work with us, start with me or Nathaniel or Mila, somebody in our team, and we will help you and guide you along the way. And you find somebody within a company to be your advocate throughout that organization. And I think that's a lot less intimidating than thinking, okay, you have to write to the president of the company or somebody you don't know. I think just starting with that mentor within the company you want to work with.
Yeah, use your local resources, right? Okay. I do see some questions from the chat. So I have some questions about I'll include these as well. I want to make sure the audience gets their questions asked. So the question from the chat is, how do you remain mission driven and philanthropic when you're pre-revenue? And I'm assuming that kind of goes into something that Andrew was touching on. And I wanted to come back to this anyways. Like, how do you make this work business wise? I think this is a great question. Thank you for asking. Who wants to?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to start, but everybody can chime in. Yeah.
I mean, you could be pre-funded or in the beginning, or you could also just not be making money and still kind of feel like you're expected to give. And that's a really tough position to be put in. And I'll be honest, I'll tell you, we had to stop at one point, and that was one of the hardest things we had to do. But it turned out the world kept moving, and it also made us realize that our little bits that we offer sometimes don't add up to enough to change the world, and we need to really focus on. That's why we made our original change. But if I was building a new business right now, I would try to work into my budget as quick as I can, something, but also don't underestimate the value of time, because if you're a business owner listening in right now, I've already assumed that you've not valued your time at all. That's why you started a business. So therefore, you probably can offer some time. And that goes a long ways. Honestly, I give a lot of time to meet with people, to sit with groups. And I feel like people want to hear your opinion because they value your opinion. You are a leader in the community, whether you believe it or not. And that has a lot of value that you probably can't, give a $50 basket and get the same reciprocating value back on that. So if it's not money, give time, and give inside wisdom to other people who are, trying to fundraise. Lend a handle on your social media, for example. If you can get the word out to 10,000 people pretty quickly, that has a lot of value. And those are ways you can give, right now.
Yeah, I remember seeing something, I think it was on social media, and it was during the pandemic. Like, even if you can't donate, you can share something, you can encourage your friends, kind of talk about the programs, right? So this doesn't have to be about personal donations. It kind of comes back to that type of sentiment that there are things you can do without having it be a hit on your finances. But then, when you kind of look at that, you can't just only do that forever. If you're looking for some type of impact, there is going to be, there needs to be a plan to kind of scale that, right? So start small, but kind of grow is what I'm hearing from you all. I didn't know if you wanted to add something, Serena. Sure,
I'll just add, I agree with what Andrew just said. I think sometimes these things are really about the relationship. It is mutual benefit. And if you can figure out that mutual benefit, then it can also be a lot more sustainable, and it can be a long-term relationship, a long-term partnership. And the bottom line, it may be beneficial to the business financially. In many times it is. In many times it is beneficial financially. And other times it could be just like so much positive goodwill. And I think that sometimes these other maybe more time intensive ways of working together, where you really have to put a lot of thought and energy into it up front, they have a longer shelf life than writing a check or, giving. Just, it's that, I think it's a lot of, in my experience, a lot of it is about the relationship and how you can get to that mutual benefit place. And it might take a while to figure out, and it's not always the right timing or the right fit, but when you can get there, I think that is it. Then it's not only about the financial.
I have a question for all of you on, thinking about some advice on, I just find it very, it's like lessons learned are kind of the best way that I know I learned. So, and I didn't really prep you guys for this one, but I'm just wondering, like, what are things that didn't work out for you when you tried to do this type of work in the community? And what are some things that you can advise on, again, the audience kind of maybe looking at trying to do something like this and get involved in their local community or get involved in these councils, like you were saying, Andrew, and committees and things like that. What are some lessons learned from maybe things that didn't go quite as planned and tips that you can turn into a tip for somebody?
For us, I would say the lesson we learned with doing events and trying to maybe do something that was going to be good for a community without having a community advocate in that location. Right. So we did try to do a regional event, and we hadn't had a champion within that community. So what we learned then in subsequent programs was we needed a champion to draw other people in the coffee community to the event to help us make it successful.
Yeah, and once again, you're involving others into your project, so this becomes more than just one company's perspective. That's great, Deb. Thank you.
I would also say, I think some of the early mistakes we made were like to scatter our efforts too much. As a small business, you have limited time and energy and money. And so really thinking about what are the priorities for you and your team, and trying to, and I think that's been mentioned before, it's like really trying to be very intentional and impactful. And it's hard because that means saying no to a lot of stuff. And none of us like to say no, but we have to. And so really, like, not trying to focus is probably the hardest thing that we had to do. And I can see the results when our efforts are more focused and when it's more strategic and long term. Whereas when these short term, like, give to this, give to that, and you get a lot of asks and you want to respond to all of them, but they're not necessarily part of a strategy or not necessarily fitting into your priorities, and not necessarily giving energy also to the team and to yourself. I think those are some of it's still difficult. It's not something that we've solved, but I think we're getting better at it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, kind of what Sabrina said, and I like putting it in dollars and cents. In 2014 or 15, we looked at the end of the year on our balance sheet, our profit and loss statement, and saw that we gave away over $10,000 worth of tradable value. And that's when we sat down and said, do you feel like we got $10,000 worth of impact out of this? And we went back and looked, it was like $35 and $50 little nuggets of transactions. And that's when we just said, well, this doesn't make sense. And I'm sure it's grown every year after that, and probably still have to work on it even a little bit more every year. But now we feel better that we have an idea in mind that we're supporting, and it guides us. It doesn't prove that everything's perfect, but at least we know kind of like what we say yes to and what we don't. It forced us to create community standards. A real powerful thing that we did on our website that I probably don't talk about enough is we created a portal for giving, and it kind of weeds out the people that are just out there to get a free basket with no real value added. And so that's been really good for us. Streamlines the process for sure.
That's great. Well, I do want to be conscious of time. I think we've got a couple minutes here. Any closing thoughts from any of you? And maybe what I would ask you is to maybe frame it as like, what's next? Maybe share with us something that you're excited about that's coming up. I know COVID's not done, but there is some sunshine out there that we're looking forward to. What are you all looking at?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Nope, you go first.
I'm just going to say I'm looking to coming into your communities. If you guys want to partner, and we'll do a Nourish Every Kid box building. So, we look forward to more participation in everybody's communities.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward, even though you said we all get this, but I'm really looking forward to our businesses being back closer to the way they used to be. We only recently reopened our cafe for dine-in services, and it's made a tremendous impact on our bottom line. And I'm really lucky to be in a community that we were able to get vaccinations so early that I truly feel like it's going to work out. So I'm looking forward to that, and then what comes with that, which is a resurgence of business that we've lost. We've lost so much in the last year, but we've also gained a lot. So all the lessons that we've learned, it's allowed us to be able to quickly turn new ideas faster, which is a really cool byproduct of a pandemic. And that's what I'm looking most forward to seeing, like what's next.
Yeah, I also am very curious about what's next. I think that some of the things that we started, Mansi, you called them our pivots. I think those we will continue to grow and evolve, and they're not things that we're gonna drop right now. So I think we will emerge out of this a different business than we were, and it's still sort of being created. And to me personally, that side of things is exciting. I like the creative process, and I like shaping things. And so it's kind of funny to look at your own business and be curious about it again, to say, oh, well, I wonder there's a sense of newness that I think we haven't felt since the very early days.
Yeah, embracing that redesign process. It's so great. Well, I want to thank each of you. Thank you so much. This was great. I personally really enjoyed it. I hope that others found value out of it. I hope each of you found some value just to share this. I know there's been some information shared on how to access this later, but it is recorded and we are going to make it available. So thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to pass it back to our team so that they could take it on. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi, Deb, Serena, Andrew. That was awesome.